Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brothers and sisters to dwell together in unity. It is a great pleasure to be here and to see such a big crowd. Y'all are all fired up and ready to go and keeping us warm today. And I see a lot of familiar faces. Now, I was thinking while I was sitting over there, back in 1978 is the last time that I gave any kind of presentation to a political group. Back in 1976, I ran as an 18-year-old for Greenwood City Council. The people spoke. And then in 1978, I was speaking as a candidate for Greenwood County Council. And I was speaking to this large group of one of the most important groups of people here in this county, and that's the volunteer fire departments. And I was standing up there and pouring my heart out as a 20-year-old kid and telling what I was going to do. And all of a sudden, everybody jumped up and ran out the door. And I said, one of two things is happening. Either they didn't like anything that I said, or they were fired up and they're ready to go. So it's great to be back home. I work at an area agency on aging, but I'm really here today as a private citizen and to share some thoughts. And Chairman Bill asked me to come and talk about aging issues. I could stand here all day and talk about aging issues, and Bill says 20 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to talk fast, and I'm just going to give you some things to think about. I don't have a lot of answers for you, but I may have some questions that you may need to ask your community and may need to ask yourselves. A while back, I live down in Summerville. We have a lot of Greenwood people down there for some reason. I don't know why, but we're kind of the remote Greenwood down there. But I was working with a respite group, and I'm the dementia consultant, and we're going to talk a lot about Alzheimer's today. But I was working with a group that is a respite program, and that's to give caregivers a break and have some fun with some older people. And so we're sitting there in St. George, South Carolina at the little senior community center and with the respite group. And all the way up there, I was trying to figure out what we were going to do because that was not my area of expertise, doing activities with people with dementia. And so we're all sitting around this table here, and I'm trying to think of something to do, and it dawned on me we could play a little game, and we're going to play it in just a minute, but we were going to go around the table and just to kind of jog people's long-term memory, which is really important in people with dementia, we were going to name an article of clothing that starts with the letter B. What would y'all say? How about you, sir? Yeah, an article of clothing that starts with the letter B. What? Okay, what else? Bra. All the guys always say bra for some reason. I don't understand it. So anyway, we were going all around the room. We were, yeah, see, y'all got it. We were going around the room, and each one of these people with dementia, some of them in very advanced types of dementia, they were saying boots and bloomers and all kinds of things, and we were having such a good time. And then we got all the way around to the end, and there sat Miss Noah. Miss Noah, you probably know somebody like that right here in Greenwood or Hodges or Cokesbury or wherever. And we got to Miss Noah, and Miss Noah was one of these nice ladies who didn't have a lot to say, but you know by the way she's looking at you what she's thinking. She knows something that you don't know. So we got all the way around to Miss Noah, and because Miss Noah never did say anything, I was very interested to find out what Miss Noah was going to be saying. And I said, well, Miss Noah, what is an article of clothing that starts with the letter B? And you will never guess what she said. Bikini. And we all just burst out laughing. And I was going to milk it just a little bit. And I said, well, Miss Noah, do you have one of those itsy bitsy, tell me the rest of it, teeny weeny, yellow polka dot bikinis? And we all laughed and laughed and laughed. And it was kind of at her expense, but she went along with it. But then she hit us right between the eyes. She said, no, sir, I only have a pink one-piece that I use every day when I'm going swimming in my swimming pool. 99 years old, and she was still going swimming in her swimming pool. And she put us all in our place, and the point of that story is I had worked in the aging field since I left Greenwood years and years and years ago. And here I was, had this kind of ageist perception. And now here I am. I was, 16, 18, 20 when I lived here in Greenwood. And here I am. I just turned 66. When I turned 65, what do people say to you? And I know there's a lot of young people here today, but for the older people here, what do people tell you when you're 65? What do they say to you? Are you going to retire? That is exactly it. Well, what are you going to do when you retire, Mr. Don? And I said, work until I'm 89 because I got a house to pay for and I got grandkids who like to have all kinds of things. We have these ideas about aging, and that's really what I want to talk to you about today. And especially, I want to talk to the older people and the younger people that are here. In my mind, I am still 16. How old are y'all? In your mind, you're 16. And, I'll be out working in my garden and digging and planting flowers and everything and trying to make it look like the Greenwood Festival of Flowers. Not so successful in that, but I'm out there digging holes. And then when I stop, 89 comes up because there's arthritis and those kinds of things. And so I'm having to struggle right now, and I'm sure a lot of you folks are too. I'm having to struggle between do and be. Have y'all ever thought about that? The do is, I feel like, oh, that clock is ticking. Here I am, 66, and I'm going to have to work till I'm at least 89, and I got all these ideas and all these things that I want to do in the world. And I still have that 16-year-old mentality that I had working in campaigns for Senator Drummond and my buddy Brian Dorn. And I had a lot of idealism, and I still have that. And I'm still fired up. And I want to accomplish a lot of things, and in my role as an advocate for older people, especially now that I'm getting to be an expert in that field by experience. So I'm trying to figure out how to get all this stuff done. But then on the other hand, I got 2 little grandchildren, and if you press me just a little bit at the end, I'll show you pictures of them. I got a 7-year-old who has autism, and a little 4-year-old, and she's got the curliest hair you ever did see. And I just want to be. I just want to spend time with them. So, there is that conflict that we have, trying to be real generative and trying to get a lot done. And I see all of y'all are here today, and y'all are here to get things done. And I want to give you some ideas about that. I guess I better show y'all some slides too. This is Greenwood many years ago. Greenwood has changed. This looks like it did when I was here in 1976, I do believe. But we've come a long way here in Greenwood, and but we get to the point, and that's Miss Nola's hands there, and this is a lady who's I started doing a little bit of research, and I want to tell you some things that I found out that you can take home with you on this cold and chilly day. I'm trying to figure out how to keep going because I'm not really 16, and I'm not really 89, and I'm just 66. I'm trying to find ways to make life better for me, and hopefully better for you too. And I have some very important information. If you don't take anything else away today, I'd like for you to listen to these things. And it really has to do with my role helping families with dementia, Alzheimer's, vascular dementia, stroke-related dementia, Parkinson's dementia. And those kinds of things are, watch your blood sugar. How many of you are diabetic here? I see some hands going up. We have a high number of people with diabetes. Watch your blood sugar, because that sugar feeds your brain, and if it's erratic, your brain is not going to get the proper amount. Too much or too little is not good for your brain. If how many of you are have high blood pressure, hypertension? A higher percentage there. We have to be careful about our blood pressure. Another thing that can help us optimally age, how many of you drink enough fluids? I've got my water here, but what I discovered in the course of doing my research is if you lose 2% of the water volume in your body, you are prone to get delirium. It can make you more confused. It can affect your thinking. It can affect your body. So be careful about making sure that you're getting enough fluids. If you don't like to drink water, eat popsicles, eat soup. Those kinds of things are important. Make sure that you're keeping your fluid intake at an adequate level. Also, one of the most important things that has come out lately that affects not only aging, but people in general, they've done some really important research about sitting and standing. And COVID really had a big impact on us. That COVID thing, it came through, and a lot of us had to go home. And then a lot of us, I can't go out and visit people in their homes anymore. I have to be ready to sit in my office a lot. If you sit, you are much more prone to get high blood pressure. You're much more prone to gain weight, poor vascular function, increased body fat, those kinds of things. So, that is a very important thing. And I guess it goes back to that biblical admonition to just stand. When you can't figure out what else to do, just stand. So, that's something very important. But the other thing that I want to tell you very briefly is the voices that we hear in our head. The problem, my friend told me, he has a disability, and my friend told me, we have to be careful to the voices that we hear in our head. Those voices that say to us, I'm too old. I can't do this anymore. Those voices that tell you that you can't function and nobody is interested in your opinion. If you're an older person, we need mentors in the community. We need people who can stand up, who have that long-range experience. Those kinds of things are very important. Be careful about the voices that you hear in your head. And we have to be careful that we are mentors to people too. There are many young people in the community that need help, and they need to know from the mistakes that you've made and everything. Those are a few of the things we need to find ways to reframe aging in our communities. Ageism is really prominent out there. It's one of the last isms that we need to start looking closer at. Stereotypes, and we need to talk more about we and us. And young people, I'm talking to you too. We don't need to shunt people away when they get older, especially people with dementia. People with dementia and older people help build our communities, and they have a right to have the blessing of continuing to stay in the community. We need to find ways to make that happen. Things like intergenerational activities, things like making sure that the property taxes don't go up way too high. Making sure that, the homestead exemption continues. And like in Dorchester County where I live, older people can go work in the courthouse or in the county government, and they can find ways to lower their taxes. So, we also need to remember, as a private citizen, I'm coming here today to tell you that senior issues, aging issues, those are issues really that affect the entire community. Now, if you're a young person and you're sitting back there and you're saying, well, that doesn't affect me. Yes, it does, because it's going to hit you in the pocketbook sooner or later. We're living in a state where the Medicaid beds are dropping at the same time that the number of people with dementia is increasing. And I want to show you just one slide really quick. Alzheimer's is a community illness, and this is going to affect everybody in the community. 115,000 people right now. That's a large city. Greenwood has 22,000, 115,000 families here in this area in the state have dementia. But by 2025, 125,000. That's enough to fill up 2.5 Williams-Brice stadiums in Columbia, just to give you an idea. So 70% of people with dementia live in the community. But I want you to look at this map here. And you can see where Greenwood is up there. Greenwood has one of the top prevalences of dementia anywhere in the state. Those are issues that you need to start looking at and addressing. There is a real big disconnect. I talk to people every day who are needing services, and they're wondering where these services are. Well, I can tell you, you didn't vote for them. We need to have these conversations in the community that say you get what you pay for. If you vote for low taxes and all of that, you're going to get reduced services at the same time when we need more services. So the number of Medicaid beds is dropping. Adult Protective Services, I was talking with the director, 6,000 calls about possible elder abuse, neglect, exploitation. They only accept 2,000 calls out of that many. We're losing a lot of cases that way. There are some really serious issues. Transportation. You have a great medical center here in Greenwood. We got a great one down at the medical university, but it doesn't matter at all if people can't get in a car or find transportation from Cornacre or Hodges or Ware Shoals. If you can't get here, then that's something that we really need to look at. Transportation, those kinds of issues. But I want to close with one little quick story. I'm a history buff, and I love the history up here. And I want to tell you a story that I read not too long ago. Out at Stony Point in that area. Anybody here from out Cornacre Way? Well, out at Stony Point, there was this big store, and this guy, it was kind of like the Walmart in the area. And he was a really prosperous businessman around the 1840s. And he was out there, and he was making a lot of sales. And then one day, his assistant came up to him and said, "Oh, man, we got a really big problem here." He said, "What?" He said, "I sold a leather saddle, one of the expensive things here. I sold a leather saddle to somebody, and I didn't write down who I sold it to." And the guy had the perfect solution. He said, "Just send everybody on our books a bill for a leather saddle. And you'll find out exactly who that saddle belongs to because people will be in such an uproar. Now, that was real creative thinking. It's going to take a lot of creative thinking. It's going to take older people being loud. It's going to take families that are dealing with older people and their issues. It's going to take them to be loud and to let people know and to use creative ideas. So, we might be moving up the rough side of the mountain and have a whole lot of issues, but if we all work together and go from us and them, young people versus old people, if we get to that point to where we can say us and we, then everything's going to turn out all right. So thank y'all so much. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay?
Can you stay a couple of minutes and field some questions?
Yep.
First thing I want to observe is that I know the people in this crowd. They loud. They loud already. I've heard them. All right. So, did you have a statement you wanted to make, Don?
I was going to say I will stick around afterwards. I don't want to. We kind of talked a little bit over, and I'm not an expert on aging issues. I'm just an older person trying to get by like everybody else. But I'll do the best I can. My area of interest is dementia, and I can answer some questions about that.
Can you back up to your slide for a second? Was there a reason or a rationale behind the prevalence?
That?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you asked that question. I think, there are a couple of reasons. Greenwood has an increasing African American community. That is one of the reasons why there's a very high prevalence now. And for some reason, we don't know all of the reasons, but for some reason, it may be diet. It's probably that high blood pressure and the diabetes that I was talking about earlier, and that's one of the main reasons why I brought that up here. But if you have a high incidence of diabetes, if you have a high incidence of stroke, if you have a high incidence of high blood pressure, you're going to have more and more people with dementia. The other thing is Greenwood is really pretty good about diagnosis. If you're having memory problems and you go to the doctor, what I recommend is you don't just say it in passing, because with the healthcare system as we have it, you can't go for another issue, and when the doctor is running out the door after their 2.5 minutes that they have designated for you, you can't say, oh, by the way, I'm having a lot of trouble with my memory. When you call, or if you're calling for your loved one, when you call, tell the person that your chief complaint is, I need a memory evaluation. But I think one of the reasons why Greenwood has a lot of really good doctors, primary care doctors, are really good about making that diagnosis of dementia. And that could be part of the reason is that more people in Greenwood are getting that diagnosis. So that, that can kind of skew it. So we have to kind of temper that. But it's still, that is a coming issue. It is an issue that we're facing right now with 115,000 going to 125,000 by next year. We don't have the services in place. We don't have the Medicaid beds. The Alzheimer's Association recently had to get a cut of 10 employees at the same time when we have one of the highest incidences of dementia in the nation. So thank you for that question. I appreciate it.
May I ask, can you tell me how do you define dementia? How would I know if my parent or grandparent had dementia? And what's the difference between dementia and ageism?
Dementia and what?
Dementia
dementia and Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's.
Oh, okay. Dementia is like an umbrella term. It has to do with things like fuzzy thinking, increased confusion, word finding difficulty, behavioral personality changes, those kinds of things. And And Alzheimer's is just one type of dementia. So you can have dementia, and it can be a lot of different types, and you not have Alzheimer's. But if you have Alzheimer's, you do have dementia. So we just use dementia as a real blanket term. And I can tell you, in my practice working with families, we're noticing a lot more people, younger people. So, this is not old-timers disease. So young people, listen up. We have people in their late 30s, in their 40s, that are starting to have a diagnosis of dementia. And it's not always, and this is an important message, it's not always having trouble with short-term memory. Sometimes it's problems with reasoning, problems with judgment. I had a client, younger guy, he was having problems not with short-term memory at all, but he was making some poor financial decisions. He was going out and buying expensive artwork and not paying for his mortgage, and he actually lost his house. And that's a whole other social issue and political issue that needs to be addressed too.
Do we have any other questions?
And I will stay afterwards if anybody has a private question, because these are kind of sensitive issues when you're talking about my memory or your memory. So, yes.
So when you mentioned ageism is kind of a new frontier that needs to be addressed, I think we often do things to kind of collude with that, like the over-the-hill parties, when people turn a certain age, instead of recognizing, you're at this age, you have more wisdom
Right.
and other assets. What are some things that we can do kind of in our life to help fight that?
First of all is how we think about ourselves, and we need to reframe that whole conversation. And I actually have a handout on the table over there. There's a whole organization now called reframingaging.org, and there's a lot of really good tips on that. But we need to confront it where we see it in the community in a kind and gentle way. That's the first thing. And my daughter is a school teacher down in School District 2 down in Somerville, and I got to go knock on their door because when the 100th day of school comes, guess what all they do? They have all the kids dressed up with the little walking canes, and it's cute and everything, but the vast majority of us older people are 16 in our head, and we're real vigorous and we want to travel. I heard somebody went to France. We're ready to go, and we're living our lives, and we need to really work on that, not just for social reasons, but for political reasons too. We need to be able to exert our clout and let people know the issues that are important to us. But we also need to work on things like avoiding segregating kinds of situations. I mean, there's a place for senior centers and a place for senior communities. But, for example, the seniors center here has an intergenerational program. I think it's starting back up soon. It's a great opportunity for young people to learn that old people can have a lot of fun. Segregating communities, senior living communities where we have people over in one area. We need to have affordable housing where people can live together, young people that are coming up and older people that are downsizing. So thank you for that question.
Great question. We got time for one more. Any
One
others?
more.
Yes, when you said that younger people can get dementia, my cousin was diagnosed last year with dementia, 37 years old, and we said that got to be some type of mistake. But he was tested in Columbia. He lives in Anderson, but he went to Columbia to test.
Right.
And sure enough, he has dementia.
Right.
So it can happen at any age, I think.
Right, and so, we have a greater awareness of dementia, and it is an issue that is a serious issue because it's going to cost this nation a lot of money, but we have not quite gotten to the point. People say, I can't put my mom in a nursing home because it's way too expensive. We have purposely chosen the private business model for services here in our country. And if you want something different to happen, you have to be loud about it. And you have to let our legislators know. So, that's one of my main messages today. If you have a loved one with dementia, if you're a caregiver and you're struggling, don't do it in silence. Let lawmakers know your stories. Let them know what kind of exact hardship. If you're having trouble getting to the doctor, call your state lawmakers and your local lawmakers and say, this is a struggle for me in my life. And if they keep hearing those stories, because, it's one thing to look at numbers and demographics and all of that, but it's another kind of story to know that your constituent, and you need to remind them that too, that your constituent has this story of hardship. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'll stay here a little bit more. Got one more question? Okay.
Just a comment.
Okay.
Just a comment. My mother was, I noticed she was losing memory and had some memory loss. So I did have the physician test her. She was tested, and he said there was some memory loss. So we immediately started doing more activities. She was a good reader. She read every morning. So we increased the number of activities for her outside, inside the house. I have an aunt that's almost 90 now, and visited her in Beaufort last week. And I asked her about some of the activities. She's not getting much outside, but she does a lot of the, like, crossword puzzles, the coloring,
Okay.
The
So you're keeping her stimulated physically and mentally.
artwork
Uh-huh.
and reading. She said every day she's reading, and she's 90. And, I mean, she sounds like she can remember things about well as I
Well, it
can.
sounds like, you're doing what you can. I want to close with just one other little quick tale of research. Down the road a little piece, there's a place where they have a lot of bulldogs, and it's called the University of Georgia. There was a guy there named Dr. Leonard Poon, and they were sitting around a table one day, and they said, we got all these grad students, and we need to find some busy work for them to do. And one of the guys piped up, and he said, hey, I've noticed we got a lot of 100-year-old people. I showed you that picture there. We got a lot of 100-year-old people, and we need to figure out why. So it says, okay, we're going to send all these people all across the state of Georgia. They sent them across the state of Georgia, and they said, well, what are some reasons why people live to be 100? Y'all got any ideas? Maybe improved diet, exercise, not smoking, not doing that, cursing, drinking, all these nasty things that people are doing. They came back, and guess what the result was? Yeah, some of them were doing those kinds of things, but some of the others, most of them, were doing all those bad things. And they said, oh my goodness. So they sent them back out, and they came back, and they said, they had to track some of these 100-year-old people down, and some of them were well over 100. Some of those people were still working. One lady, she was working at a movie parlor, she called it, collecting tickets. And she said, they said, well, why are you doing that? She said, so I know everybody in this town's business. Well, what they found is one thing that's helping people to live long and prosperous and active lives is they have a connection. They have a reason to get up and put the turtle wax on their head and go into town, get out of the pajamas. That's really important. Having a place to go, a place to be, a title, connection with other people. So I'm going to close by saying this. Just the mere fact that you got up here in this rain today and came out to be with all of us good people, it may help you live a long, long time. And I hope it does. Thank y'all very much.